Welcome, and we are back to another sports-fueled episode of Inside the Inferno. I'm your host, Ashley Engel, and beside me today to break it all down is Olivia Eisenhower. Olivia, welcome to the Anchor Desk, your anchor debut. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I feel great, honestly. Happy to be here to tackle this episode with you. And we have ASU football playing this weekend against Colorado. We have all things swim, golf, and so much more going on in Sun Devil Nation. So let's get right into it.
All right, let's dive right in. All right, so now ASU football played against BYU this past Saturday night, falling short of the Cougars, but they are not the only team in the Pac-12 that struggled. Here's Ray Belcora with this week's Pac-12 football roundup.
The first 3 weeks of the Pac-12 football season have been a mixed bag for the conference. On one hand, the league has picked up 2 impressive wins, with UCLA defeating LSU and Oregon going into Columbus and taking down Ohio State. Unfortunately, the bad losses greatly outnumber those 2 wins. Whether it's Washington losing to Montana, Utah falling short against San Diego State, Fresno State beating UCLA, or even Northern Arizona going to Tucson and extending the Wildcat losing streak, there have been far too many embarrassing moments for the Conference of Champions. While only 2 teams in the Pac-12 being currently ranked is highly disappointing, number 3 Oregon might be the best shot the Pac-12 has had in years to reach the college football playoff. Having already established an eye-popping road win on their resume, Oregon will surely be one of the 4 teams selected to the playoffs should the Ducks run the table. Even with 1 loss, Oregon has a great chance to be included in the playoffs should they win the Pac-12 championship. This Saturday, the Ducks host Arizona as conference play is now in full swing. Elsewhere, Utah hosts Washington State, UCLA travels to Stanford, Cal and Washington clash in Seattle, and of course, Arizona State hosts Colorado, with the Sun Devils coming off a painful loss at BYU.
Thank you, Ray. We just can't get enough of football on today's show, and I think it's safe to say the Sun Devils are looking forward to moving on from BYU. But with key takeaways, take it away, Ryan.
Last week, Arizona State traveled to Provo, Utah for their first road test against a ranked opponent in the BYU Cougars. In a historically sloppy performance, the Sun Devils suffered their first loss of the season and fell out of the top 25 rankings. ASU was penalized 16 times, which is the second most in a game in program history. Through 3 games this season, the Sun Devils have the second most penalties in the country. With an average of 12 penalties for 106 yards per game, it is evident the Sun Devils have struggled with discipline. They need to find a way to correct these mistakes because it proved to be costly against a ranked opponent after not meaning anything against Southern Utah and UNLV. On defense, the veteran-led secondary struggled. They had multiple lapses in coverage, including a deep 34-yard flea flicker touchdown from BYU quarterback Jaron Hall to Gunnar Romney. In total, the defense surrendered 6 passes for a gain of 15-plus yards. On offense, the one takeaway that stands out for me is the emergence of running back Daniel Ngata. With the absence of Chip Trainum, the redshirt freshman has seen an uptick in touches the past couple of weeks, and he has made the most of it. Against the Cougars, Ngata rushed for a career-high 82 yards on 8 carries and scored a touchdown. It is the 3rd straight game he has found the end zone. He has proved that even with the return of Trainum, he deserves more touches. Sticking with the running backs, Rashad White's streak of 4 games with multiple touchdown scores was snapped last week, and the Sun Devils failed to reach 200 rushing yards as a team for the first time this season. This week, the Sun Devils look to clean up penalties and improve defensively as they return home for their Pac-12 conference opener against the Colorado Buffaloes. Let's head over to Sam Valenti, who has more ahead of today's matchup.
Hey there, Sun Devils. This is Sam Valenti here with a preview of ASU's Pac-12 opener against the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, as Ryan just recapped, the Sun Devils are coming off a disappointing loss to BYU and are looking to bounce back in front of their fans at Sun Devil Stadium. As for their opponents, the Colorado Buffaloes are 1-3 so far, with back-to-back losses to Texas A&M and Minnesota. In the game against the Aggies, Colorado actually had a 7-3 lead in the 4th quarter, before the Aggies pulled out a 10-7 victory. Despite nearly beating the now 7th-ranked team in the nation, the Buffaloes laid an egg the very next week. Minnesota shut out Colorado 30-0, and the Buffaloes only gained 67 yards of offense. Colorado does have one of the most stout defenses in the Pac-12, only allowing 15.7 points a game. So the Sun Devils offense will have to execute for all 4 quarters if they want to get back in the win column. Now, as for ASU's defense, they're only allowing 17 points a game on average, and the pass defense has been great, which could provide problems for quarterback Brendan Lewis. The Colorado offense set a Pac-12 record last week after not scoring for 20 consecutive drives. And ASU's defense will look to make that record even longer in this game. The crowd will be rocking at Sun Devil Stadium for this one, and ASU will definitely be motivated to make their fans proud in their very first game this year against Pac-12 competition. Well, that is all I got for you today, Sun Devils. Now, back to you, Ashley.
Yeah, same with ASU football falling short of the Cougars. They're not going to let that 2-1 record faze them as they get ready to put on a show tonight against Colorado at Sun Devil Stadium. Thanks, Sam, for that update. Now, instead of the Pac-12, let's move into the NCAA as a whole. We have some teams that dropped their rank and some that earned their way up. Here's Tyler Bedner with more.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm going to break down the top rankings for Week 4 of college football. The teams in this ranking have moved around since the beginning of the season as teams begin to find their identity. Alabama has consistently stayed at the #1 ranking throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. Alabama dominated Miami, who was ranked 14th at the beginning of the season, obliterated Mercer by 34 points, but barely squeezed by University of Florida last week, winning 31-29. Georgia sits at the second best ranking through 3 weeks. Georgia was ranked 5th at the beginning of the season, but after beating Clemson in a great defensive showing by both teams, they skyrocketed to the second ranking and have remained there since. Oregon sits at the 3rd ranking, all thanks to defeating Ohio State in Week 2. This is the first matchup between these teams since the national championship game in 2015. Oregon won the game 35-28. Oklahoma has maintained a top 5 ranking throughout the season despite 2 close matchups with Nebraska and Tulane. This week, they sit at the 4th spot. And finally, Iowa's ranked 5th coming into Week 4 and is the highest ranked Big Ten school. Iowa's ranked 18th at the start of the season, but because of a big win against 14th ranked Iowa State, they jumped up greatly in the rankings. USC and Arizona State are 2 Pac-12 teams that ranked in the top 25 at some point in the season, but are no longer ranked. USC suffered a devastating loss against Stanford in Week 2, 42-28, that resulted in head coach Clay Helton being relieved of his duties. Helton amassed a solid 46-24 record at USC. Arizona State started the season ranked 25th and moved all the way up to 19th after Week 2. But Arizona State lost to BYU last week, who was ranked 23rd at the time, and now ASU isn't ranked at all. That's all I have for you this time. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Tyler. Now let's look at the odds by bringing in betting analyst Daniel Triana for a look at the picks Saturday at Sun Devil Stadium. Daniel, what are the betting lines looking like for ASU versus Colorado?
ASU is once again the favorite to win with a spread of 14 points and an over-under of 44.5, which is the lowest total for an ASU game this season.
And after a Sun Devil loss last week, what's your pick of the week?
Both of these teams have consistently gone under this season, and in the last 4 games at Sun Devil Stadium, the point total has hit under. I think the trend will end on Saturday as ASU looks to have a big bounce-back week offensively after the disappointing loss to BYU.
Besides football, what other ASU athletics are available on the sports books right now?
As of recently, legal Arizona sportsbooks have posted the futures for the upcoming basketball season. The odds as of right now have ASU plus 4,000 underdogs to win the Pac-12 conference, the favorites being UCLA and Oregon.
Well, Daniel, thanks for coming on, and you can find more of his content at infernointel.com. Now let's check out what else is going on in ASU athletics with Connor and this week's headlines.
And welcome back to another segment of Headlines. And with me at the desk this time is Connor McGill. Connor, what's going on this week?
Nothing much, honestly. Thanks for having me on, Ashley. And let's just get straight to some of the best headlines of the week from ASU athletics. And first, we're going to start out with the ASU baseball program, which continues to be a hotspot for those with aspirations to play in the MLB. Here you have the 113th player, Seth Martinez, who got the start for the Houston Astros this week. And you might as well just call ASU MLB University. I mean, they are one of the top schools to produce MLB talent, Ashley.
Yeah, I honestly agree with you, Connor, because we see talent in the ASU baseball team basically every single year with their recruiting class, and I feel like this year they're going to be good. And also in the past, you know, we have all these players coming and just being drafted in the MLB right off the bat. So honestly, I'm really excited to see what this team has to moving forward. So Connor, what else do we have for headlines this week?
Well, it only gets better from here, Ashley. And now moving on to the soccer pitch, the ASU soccer team ranked the highest in program history at number 15 this week, and we got to celebrate somehow. So here is a little something.
Oh.
And so we're just gonna do a
I
little.
love the party. All right, let's do this
Yeah,
thing.
we're gonna do a little 3, 2, 1, and.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see it. You love to hear it too. The ASU Sun Devils currently 8-1 on the season as they open up Pac-12 play this week, and they're also on a hot 3-game winning streak.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good start for our soccer team, honestly. I mean, I'm excited to see what this team has in store as well. I mean, all the ASU teams as well, because, we have a lot of these recruiting classes coming in and just a lot of recruits and everything. So, I mean, I'm excited. So, Connor, what do you have for us last for this week's headlines?
Wrapping it all off, the cherry on top, if I say so myself.
Okay.
We got to mention ASU women's basketball alum Brianne January, who's turned many eyes in the WNBA this season playing for the Connecticut Suns, and she's possibly being dubbed the Defensive Player of the Year. The WNBA playoffs are kicking off this week, and we wish her nothing but luck here at Inferno Intel. And that's going to wrap up headlines, Ashley.
Yeah, Connor, thank you so much for coming in. Talking to us every week on these ASU headlines. And for more of Connor McGill's content, you can go to inferno.com, infernointel.com. Now let's send it over to Paul with an ASU golf update.
Thanks, Ashley. Sun Devil men's golf fell just short last weekend at the Fighting Illini Invitational in Chicago. As a team, Arizona State finished in second place, just 3 shots back of North Carolina, with a final score of 5 over par. Cameron Sisk had another impressive turnout, finishing in second place, tying with fellow Sun Devil David Pooge, with a total score of 2 under par. ASU's women's golf team finished strong at the Annika Invitational, where they tied with Texas for the lowest team score on the final day of the tournament. For now, both teams are preparing for a trip to Ohio for the Barbara Nicholas Cup on October 4th and 5th, where they'll compete together against Ohio State, Auburn, and Florida State. Both teams have good momentum going into this tournament, and we'll see if we can take it with them to Ohio.
Yeah, Paul, the men's team is looking solid after 2 top 5 finishes to kick off their travel-heavy season. Both teams, in fact, are looking good, and we look forward to seeing what both of these teams will continue to accomplish as the season goes on. Thank you, Paul, for that update. Now, switching to different types of swings, ASU men's and women's tennis is about to begin its season, and here with me to discuss the logistics of this year's squad is reporter Griffin Greenberg. Griffin, where and when will the men's and women's tennis teams kick off their fall season?
Well, Ashley, the men's team started their fall season a week ago, actually, as the team sent Fabian Saleh and Nicola Signa to San Francisco to play in the Battle of the Bay Classic, while also sending 3 others to compete in Las Vegas in the Larry Easley Memorial Classic. On the women's side, they started their season coming into this weekend as they sent 6 players to play in the Cal Invitational in Berkeley, and they also sent Patricia Spaca and Julia Morlet to Lubbock, Texas to compete in a tournament over the course of this weekend and running through next week.
Yeah, got it. So how has the men's team fared so far in their tournaments already played?
Yeah, so Signa and Saleh, who are both new to ASU's program actually, with Signa being a freshman and Saleh a transfer senior, went 1-1 together in their doubles matches before scratching their last match, unfortunately. Signa went 1-2 in singles, and Saleh lost the opening main draw, but did win 3 matches in the back draw in his singles matches. As for those who went to Vegas, Spencer Brockman and Moritz Hoffman lost 2 doubles matches they played together, but Brockman showed some great signs overall, as in the singles, he won the opening round in 3 sets after dropping the first set, and played well, winning the next couple rounds in 2 sets before losing in the finals.
Yeah, with some strong performances and also some learning abilities from these matches, how do you think both the men's and women's teams are looking for this upcoming season?
I would honestly expect high hopes for these teams. I mean, the men's team finished in top 25 in USTA's final rankings last season, as they finished 17-9 in the spring season, although they are losing Nathan Ponwith and Andrea Bola as they both graduated, but they obviously get Brockman back for his sophomore year, which is very big as we've already seen great progression from him so far in the fall season, along with multiple other strong players. As far as the women's side, they're also a powerful team that performed great last season like the men's. They received votes just to finish right outside the top 30 in USTA's final rankings and went 15-9 in the spring season. And like the men's team, they also have a sophomore that should put up big numbers this year in Mariana Argaro-Castriti. But keep in mind that the fall season for college tennis usually helps, kind of build the team and create chemistry. It helps the coaches find out the best lineups they should use and helps players to work with each other, to know each other's playing styles in preparation for the spring season when the NCAA championships roll around.
Thanks, Griffin. That's definitely a team to keep an eye out for. Now let's send it over to Nick Hodel for a special news segment.
Welcome into this week's edition of Sparky Stats. I'm Nicholas Hodel, and as you can see in front of me, we have 3 particular cards that represent this week's 3 stats from all across Arizona State Athletics. Let's not waste any more time and get into our first statistic of the segment. I'm so excited to see what this is. There we go. 23 minutes, 44 seconds, .8. That was junior Vincent Mari's time in this past weekend's UC Riverside Invitational. He finished third individually on the men's side of the event. Arizona State's men finished 6th as a team out of 26 teams, and the women finished 10th out of 24 teams. Let's move on to statistic number 2. And let's find out what this is. There we go. 129th, and unfortunately, it's bad news for Arizona State football. That's their ranking in fewest penalties per game. 12 penalties per game for the Sun Devils. Only one FBS program is worse than the Sun Devils so far this season, and that is UTEP. That's a figure they're hoping to turn around in this week's conference debut against Colorado. Finally, statistic number 3. Let's see what we have here. There we go. 15. That's the number of days till Arizona State softball kicks off its fall campaign as it prepares for its spring season. They will take on South Mountain Community College in Tempe. And Arizona State's women, they are really hoping to replicate their success from this past spring in which they host an NCAA regional. That'll take care of this week's Sparky Stats. Let's send it back now to the studio.
Thanks for that, Nick. A lot of exciting stuff going on. Now let's take a dip in the pool with swim reporter Zach Bradshaw.
What's up, Inferno? My name is Zach Bradshaw, and I'm part of Inferno Intel's brand new ASU swim coverage team. We have a fantastic display of talent, and we cannot wait to get this inaugural season underway. That being said, the 2021 season for ASU men's and women's swim begins just a week from today, as both teams have an inter-squad meet on October 1st. It'll kind of serve as like a precursor for the season moving forward. But what's special about it is that it's the first meet for ASU since March 11 of 2020. The season as a whole is a welcome back tour for the Sun Devils because the teams didn't even get a season last year due to COVID restrictions. Now, the way that the season works is that each of the men's and women's teams has a set number of swim meets facing off against different Pac-12 schools. For the men, they face 5 Pac-12 teams, and the women will face 7 Pac-12 teams. These matchups are what ASU will use as sort of testing the waters, no pun intended. They have a high-intensity feeling, high-energy feeling, and they allow for swimmers to get the feel for which events and distances they prefer. Pac-12 meets will begin in 3 weeks as the ASU women travel to the Washington State Cougars on October 16, and the men will host the USC Trojans on November 6th. Let's turn it over to take a look at the ASU roster because it is loaded with talented swimmers. A total of 7 swimmers from the ASU roster went to the 2020 Olympics, 2 of which are still on the team. Jared Arroyo and Leon Marchand both swam multiple events in Tokyo, and Marchand actually finished 6th place in the world for the men's 400-meter individual medley. Meanwhile, Carter Swift, a redshirt senior, placed 2nd in the 100-meter freestyle in the 2019 Pac-12 championships and was given the Max Swimmer of the Year award in 2017 when he was with Eastern Michigan. On the women's circuit, Emma Norden won the Pac-12 championship medal in 2019 competitions, taking home 1st place in the 500-meter freestyle, while taking home 2nd in the 200-meter freestyle. Erica Laning also represented ASU in the 2019 Pac-12 championships, taking home 6th place in the 200-meter freestyle. And that's just to name a few. Not to mention that head coach Bob Bowman represented Arizona State at the 2020 Olympics by serving as assistant head coach for Team USA. So ASU is just filled to the brim with talent. To learn more about the ASU team, you can keep up with the races on the Sun Devil website and be on the lookout as the Sun Devil swim team is going to have a swim-pressive waterfall season. Remember, in the pool, life is cool. I'm Zach Bradshaw for Inferno Intel. We will see you in the water.
Thanks, Zach. Can't wait to see the great content that comes out of the new coverage team. Now let's send it to the ice to see what's going on with ASU hockey.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm Austin Scott, and it's time to skate right into ASU men's hockey. With only a week remaining until the Sun Devils begin their 2021-2022 season in Tempe on October 2nd for their final season at Oceanside Ice Arena, Coach Greg Powers said their only goal as of right now is to prepare for their 2-game home opener against a really good UMass Lowell team. With high expectations to possibly make an appearance in the national championship or the Final Four, ASU hockey is looking to take it 1 game at a time this year. Powers also said this week they will be focusing on special teams and making sure their power play and penalty kill rotations are ready come next Friday. It's also no secret
that the team is looking forward to returning to home ice after being on the road all of last year. In their last 2 seasons where they played home games, the Sun Devils were 24-5-3 on home ice. Oceanside is small, it's claustrophobic, and it's not your typical collegiate hockey arena, which is why this team is so excited to be back at Oceanside. It presents a weird, unhomey feel for the opposing team that the Sun Devils love to take advantage of. After a 1-year hiatus from playing on home ice and an interesting season in the Big Ten, the Sun Devils finally returned back to normalcy and are more hungry than ever to play at home and send off Oceanside with a bang. Back to you guys at the desk.
That's it for our show this week. Thank you guys so much for coming in. For more of our content, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Inferno Intel, like us on Facebook at Inferno Intel, and our website, infernointel.com.
For Ashley Engel, I'm Olivia Eisenhower. We will see you same time, same place next week.